Hey, Crunk Chocolate here to talk about big changes for Shades of Blue podcast in 2025. To help take the show and the network to the next level, I would love for you to subscribe to our Patreon. Only $6 a month is where you can get at least 5 extra hours a week of exclusive premium content. Shows like our preview series, Breaking Bread, and our interview series, Chopping It Up, are moving to Patreon. There's a new match preview available right now with James Jones of We Are West Ham podcast and upcoming guests, our head of Brentford NYC official supporter group, Charlie Core, for City versus Brentford, One Up Front podcast for City versus Salford, and Oliver Debegras of PSG's official supporter group in Paris. Can watch episodes of Chopping It Up with Aaron West, Andre Carlisle of Diaspora United podcast, Howard Hawking of 9320 podcast, and Miles Gray of the Daily Zeitgeist right now on your Patreon. There are also new Patreon exclusives, content like Shady Gang Cinema Club, Traductor de Pep, and you can watch our weekly recordings live from a private YouTube stream, and plenty more for, again, $6 a month. Help out a podcast, get some fantastic football content. It will be city and non-city based. We're going to be having a lot of fun over there. We will be sharing 15-minute tidbits in the stream. So you listen, enjoy, subscribe. You know the vibes. Welcome to Breaking Bread, hosted by me, Crunk Chocolate, a show where we break verbal bread with a quote-unquote enemy. Whenever Manchester City has an upcoming match, I will be here having a conversation with a supporter of City's upcoming opponent. Shout out to all you lovely people on Patreon. Patreon is the new home of premium content like Breaking Bread, our match preview series, and our interview series, Chopping It Up, where there are episodes waiting for you right now on Patreon with Aaron West, Miles Gray of the Daily Zeitgeist, Eric Wall, Andre Carlisle, and more shows waiting to be announced and watched. Basically, $6 a month will get you access to invite-only live recordings of episodes, discounts on our upcoming Season 3 merch drop, and about 5-6 hours of content, special premium content each week. If you want to see and help Shades of Blue grow, this is the best way to help the podcast out. If you are not subscribed, you will be enjoying the first 15 minutes of this episode to get a taste of what we offer on Patreon. Check the episode descriptions, tap the Patreon link to subscribe, and enjoy the rest of this episode and all our offerings on Patreon. Wonderful show for you discussing Manchester City, who are welcoming our good friends West Ham. What is it? West Manchester. Man, I can never remember the combination. There's so many different combinations. The blue and the sky blue and the claret. It does blend pretty well together. It does feel that City have found their way out of the darkness. The last 2 months have been painful. Speaking of this is a little fun fact. It's a fun fact for me. It might not be for our guests. West Ham have beaten Manchester City only twice in the last 5 years. Man City have 18 wins, 3 draws, and 2 losses in all competitions. If you go back to the last 2 times West Ham have beaten City, it's back in October 2021 when West Ham won in the Carabao Cup, a 5-3 winner in PKs. To go back in the to look at the last win in the Premier League, you have to go back to September 15th, 2019. West Ham won 2-1 thanks to, man, when I saw these names, I went, whoa, Victor Moses and Diafra Sakho. Like, yikes. But West Ham, they're in an inconsistent run. I don't want to say it's a bad run. They're in an inconsistent run, which this could be a perfect chance to help City grow in their confidence. Does West Ham have a player, manager, or a culture problem? Is the media making too much of things, which we know they tend to do? Those questions and more will be answered by our guest. Shady Gang, welcome on for the first time, James Jones of We Are West Ham Podcast. Hello, welcome. How's it going? And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year! No, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to come. It's the first time I've been on your podcast. I've been a guest on a lot of Man City podcasts. You mentioned right at the beginning there the friendship between the two clubs. So I'm always more than happy to come on and chew the fat with another Man City fan. It's always a great pleasure.
Yes, truly. That was one of the things I learned very quick. I've been a City fan in 2002 playing FIFA. I bumped into City in like scrolling through the teams in the divisions. I saw Man City in Division 2, and I had never even heard of Manchester City. All I've ever heard of United, just being smashed in the face by them on all kinds of media growing up as a kid. I just knew I did not like United. So once I saw Manchester City, the cool logo, there were some Sean White Phillips that was back then. They had a few other. Why is all the names leaking out of my brain? But anyway, the really cool. There was a black and white stripe kit. There's a badge on it that people feel away about nowadays, but I really loved that using that kit. It was very cool. I loved all of the retro kits. And where I live in the Midwest of America, there's always a big chip on our shoulders. We think that our teams are better than they are, and one day we dream of being great. So that's basically what I filled in with Man City, and this is an actual team that has experienced success from what I've supported. It's been very nice, but like kind of this losses, it's built character. I'm used to it. So it's been kind of fun trying to figure out how to voice my perspective into this last couple of months, and been very interesting watching all the head loss from City fans. But yeah, it's just West Ham. Always love. Shout out to the homie Big Phil. He's a US based West Ham fan. He's the person we usually work with, but we wanted to try to stretch our arms out and connect with some new people here in 2025, and then bumped across you. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to building with you and growing this relationship.
Likewise. No, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. Let's get started here with this. We asked this question. I know sometimes the answer is really, well, I was just born here, or my family forced me to, but I still love asking these questions. Why do you love your club? And if I can do a two-part, what do you think is the best attribute or the best part about being a West Ham fan supporter?
Well, I support West Ham because my dad. When I was about 5 years old, I came home from. We were at home, and I'll never forget it. He said, "If you ever come home from school and tell me you're a Tottenham fan, I'll make you homeless." So he was fanatical West Ham, and although I was gonna follow him anyway, he kind of frightened me into it. He kind of blackmailed me into it a little bit. And growing up where I went to school and where I grew up, there was a lot of Tottenham fans, a lot of Arsenal fans, and it was around about when I went into secondary school. It was around about the time that Chelsea got bought out by Roman Abramovich. So then suddenly Chelsea fans pop up out of nowhere. They come out of the woodwork. I actually know one West Ham fan who changed his team to Chelsea after the takeover back in 2003, I think it was. And he's still a Chelsea fan to this day, but he was a West Ham fan. So it was difficult for me growing up. Tottenham were just getting good, which pains me to say. Arsenal were winning Premier Leagues. Chelsea were the richest club in the world for a time. Mm-hmm. And then there I was supporting little old West Ham, who were constantly finishing 13th in the Premier League and getting knocked out in the FA Cup in the third round. And it was like, we're probably never going to win anything, but it's a laugh anyway. And that's kind of been that's what I love about West Ham the most, is that it's, you don't know what you're going to get season by season. The last 3 years has been unbelievable for West Ham. The best 3 or 4 years of my lifetime. Mm-hmm. Won a first trophy. I saw West Ham win a trophy for the first time in my life. I was there in Prague, winning the Conference League. And it was a dream come true. But those moments are going to be few and far between. And we're finding that out again this season, where we've kind of fallen off the wagon and we're kind of back to where we were 4 years ago, looking over our shoulder, wondering whether we're going to go down or not. And it's kind of it's the inconsistency, but it's the love of. It's like a family club. It's, you know, you don't. It is a little bit cliche, but you don't choose support West Ham. West Ham chooses you, kind of thing. You know, although my dad blackmailed me into it, and I've been through a lot of pain and a lot of heartbreak over the last 35 years. I don't regret it for 1 second, because moments like the one we had in Prague 2 years ago, the 3 years we've just had, make it all the pain and all the frustration and all the anger so much more worth it than if we were winning it every single year. If we were winning trophies all the time. And obviously I'd love West Ham to win more than just one trophy in 40 years, obviously. But it just makes it feel a lot more worth it. And that's why, if anyone's considering being a West Ham fan, do not be a West Ham fan because you like success, or you like things being easy or happy or plain sailing, because it's going to be a roller coaster. It's going to be a ride. You're going to spend most of your time annoyed or frustrated or upset. But those moments are worth it when you get the real joy and the real euphoria. So yeah, that's where I am. 35 years of supporting West Ham. Don't regret it. More sadness than happiness, but that's it. Can't change my team now. I'm stuck with it, and I'm now telling my son he's got to be a West Ham fan. He's 5 years old. I haven't quite blackmailed him into it yet, but he's beginning to. And he was at an age where I'm telling him to support West Ham when we're winning the Conference League. So he was probably thinking, oh, this is like this every year. It's not, mate. It's definitely not. It's going to be another 40 years until we win something else. He doesn't know that yet. I'm telling him we're great. We're the best. Jarrod Bowen's the best player in the world. Yeah. And he'll find out the hard way in a few years, I'm sure.
West Ham, a couple of years ago, tricked us, a couple of us. We do, like most podcasts do, you do a top 6 predictions. I've forced us to do top 7 for a while because I could kind of see the vibes happening with all the extra competitions. I don't know why. I was just like, I don't know. I just feel like with all the teams that are coming, we're going to have to like focus on a top 7 for some reason. And then the Europa and all those other competitions were announced. And I was like, look at me, not knowing anything, but somehow predicting all of this. I'm pretty sure it was 2 seasons ago, 2 of us predicted like top 5, I think, for West Ham. We were parading, dancing in the bubbles. We were all in on you guys. And again, it could just be there are so many other clubs I loathe, detest, or just simply don't want to see him win. And so maybe it was my hopefulness for West Ham, because I'm pretty sure I was one of them. I thought they were going to get 5th. Obviously, this season's it's been a struggle, and we'll get to it, but it definitely kind of threw me off a little bit. We can even start with just the transfer moves in general. We'll get to the winter market. It just opened up, but I would like to quickly talk about summer moves. West Ham brought in Kilman from Wolves, Somerville from Leeds, Fulcred from Dortmund. There's Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but that's a team I don't really like to acknowledge. But these are all solid players on decent teams. And it's kind of, and I feel like it almost summarizes West Ham, because it's good players that could have a high ceiling if they hit it. And it doesn't, maybe they have, maybe they haven't, but you sit 13th in the league. That wasn't what I was expecting to see from West Ham. And I'm sure you feel the same way. But these players that were brought in during the summer, were you excited? Were you hopeful? Because it was like, 140 million euros spent by West Ham. That's a lot of money that from a team that normally doesn't do things like that.
Yeah, it's caught us off guard a little bit as well, to be honest. There was all this talk towards the back end of the summer after we'd done a lot of that business already, and everyone, even neutrals are going, West Ham have won the transfer window, they've won the summer, they've done the best business. And it was, there was a lot of excitement. We had a new manager in charge, and we just spent 140 million quid. And you look at the players we brought, and Füllkrug had just started the Champions League final only a few months earlier for Dortmund, and Wan-Bissaka, everyone knows how good he can be on his day. Kilman, a class centre half. Summerville, player of the season in the Championship. Rodriguez almost signed for Barcelona a couple of months earlier, but it all fell apart because Barcelona's financial problems. So we saw that and went, "Cool, if Barcelona wanted him, he must be good." Mm-hmm. So we were like, "Yeah, this is good." We've kept Kudus. Bowen's still at the club. He's been made captain, and it's exciting. It's exciting time to be a Hammer. And it just hasn't worked. It hasn't worked, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But it all stems back to the managerial appointment. Essentially, mm-hmm. the players and the recruitment, I don't think is the problem. I think it's the manager and the system that he's tried to do. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. No one saw it coming. Everyone expected us to be higher than 13th at this stage of the season. And the table is still tight, so there's a chance that we still might finish in the top 10, which was kind of our expectation. But yeah, it hasn't been good. If I'm honest, it hasn't been good at all.
I think that has been the most interesting part of the season for the Premier League as a whole, is how close everything is. I'm not gonna lie, I definitely thought City were gonna run away with the league this season. It just felt good. And we see where we are. Liverpool, obviously, they are happily in first with a 7-point lead. But if you go from second